Hello and welcome to another Royal Reviewer live pop-up chat, and this chat is quite topic specific, so I'm not going to be answering any live chat comments about any other topic than the one that is titled, which of course is about the Virginia Roberts Giuffre Panorama BBC interview, which actually aired yesterday on BBC at 9 p.m. UK. So without further ado, I am going to go to the chat room because of course I want to see and read people's comments about this topic, but I have got my notepad full of notes from watching it, and I am going to be going through them and hopefully kind of systematically working my way through it. And of course, because this is, and I will say this at the very start of this chat, because this is an ongoing legal issue, I'm not going to be making any sorts of accusations. I am not going to be necessarily giving my own opinion on whether or not I think Andrew is guilty or not guilty, or who's telling the truth. I want to kind of keep this as factual and quite to the legal point as I possibly can, and as much as what I am aware of and know about. So this isn't going to be some kind of, opinion piece. This is going to be me going through systematically trying to analyse and break down this interview in relation to Prince Andrew and the royal family. So, of course, it is the 3rd of December 2019, and yesterday was the day that it aired. So it aired on Sunday, the 2nd of December 2019, BBC One at 9 p.m. in the UK. Right, I can see lots of people have joined already in the chat, so I'm going to go straight into it. It was an hour long. It had been extended by 30 minutes, and I do believe the bulk of it had been recorded before Andrew gave his interview. Now, we all know what happened with Andrew's interview. I've spoken about Andrew's interview. Maybe, possibly, Andrew's interview was in response to the fact that maybe he was aware that Virginia Roberts Giuffre had, I'm going to refer to her as Virginia Roberts throughout this video, but obviously she is Giuffre, and I hope I pronounced that correctly as well. So maybe his interview could potentially have been in response to knowing that hers was going to air. So I just thought I may kind of throw that in there because it may explain as to why he took the leap from being completely silent to suddenly, here we have a big massive TV interview. I mean, it could just help to explain why maybe he just took that leap and made that interview, took part in that interview. So I have to say, from watching it, I watched it all the way through, and again, I mean, I really feel for the victims. It started exactly where I wanted the interview to start. It started with the backstory, and I always think it's the best place to start in any of these things is always right from the beginning. And it did go into a lot of detail about how the girls were recruited for Epstein, and in particular by Ghislaine. And again, I hope I've said the name correctly, but Ghislaine Maxwell was definitely central. She was key throughout the whole interview. And I can see from the legal point of view where this is going. I think, from what I'm gathering, I think the legal team that represent the girls, the main person they are trying to get is Ghislaine Maxwell, because they see her as being the key. She is the key to everything, and she's the main person that they are going after. That was quite obvious to me throughout the interview. I think what they need Andrew for, more than anything, is evidence. I think they need Andrew's kind of witness accounts of what's gone on. Whether or not that would lead to Andrew himself being in hot water for anything, but I'll get to that towards the end of the video, because that's more towards the end of my notes. I don't know. I mean, a lot of this is we don't know until somebody makes a move. But I do think that Ghislaine is key. She is central, and it kind of everything in Epstein's absence is centering most definitely around her. So it started with the whole story about how the girls were recruited. Most of them were recruited from high school, and they were lured by money. They were being paid a lot of money to perform these massages, and a lot of the girls didn't want to pass up on that opportunity of earning the money, even though they knew that it was wrong to do so, which is a whole separate other issue in itself. But I'm just going through what was said in the actual interview. Virginia then went into about her own abuse pre Maxwell and pre Epstein. So she had had an abusive childhood, which made her vulnerable, and therefore she thought that, you know, this kind of lifestyle was normal, that she thought that this is what kind of went on. She then obviously she said that she felt exploited by Ghislaine and Giuffre when she had her interview, which was actually a naked massage, where Ghislaine allegedly sort of showed Virginia what to do, and it all ended up in what she said it ended up in. Then it kind of went to her story revolving around Andrew. So she spoke about him being excessively sweaty. Now, obviously, this interview cut to his interview where he gave the reasons, in his opinion, as to why that couldn't be true. He said he had a medical condition from the Falklands. He said he had an excessive amount of adrenaline whilst he was being shot at, and that caused him not to sweat. The interview then proceeded to show photos of Andrew around that time with sweat stains under his shirt. So again, that kind of left that open. She then addressed the photo where Andrew is photographed with his arm around her waist. She said that photo was given in a bundle of about 20 photographs to the FBI. In the original documents, the numbers representing that photo were missing. In documents that were revealed, those numbers referred to that photo. So apparently the FBI have this photograph. So Andrew said in his interview that that the photo was a photo of a photo of a photo, and therefore it couldn't be relied upon. Virginia is saying categorically 100% that the photograph is a real photo. It has numbers on the back, it has dates, it's a real photo. She says the FBI are in possession of that photograph. So, if ever it came to a court of law, that would be really easy to prove. That would be really, 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 really easy to prove, because the FBI would have that photo. It would be easy to prove, basically, if that photo was true and correct. So I'm going to move on from that, because obviously that is something that could be corroborated on, if indeed the FBI do have that photograph, which I have no reason to doubt that they do not. We then had the revelation of new emails which were exchanged between Andrew and Ghislaine after the initial allegations back in 2015 were revealed about Epstein. So these emails related to Andrew saying that he had questions about Virginia Roberts, And Ghislaine responded with, call me when it's convenient, I've got information, or words to that effect. So, does that kind of prove or disprove? I don't know. I don't know how a court of law would do it, but I'm sure a lawyer could argue either way, whether it proves or disproves that Andrew was aware of Virginia Roberts, because in his interview he said that he had no recollection of even meeting her or that kind of thing. So would those emails help or not help to prove or disprove that? It could have been Andrew just asking, have you got any information on this girl? Who is she? Or it could have been, you could take it to mean, can you give me some information on what's going on? That would be very difficult, I think, to prove without further email correspondence to suggest one way or the other. Virginia is still saying that she alleges 3 occasions when Andrew was said to have had relations with her. 1 in London, 1 in New York, and 1 on one of Epstein's Caribbean islands. Again, I think it all boils down to what evidence you have in terms of having relations. Is there evidence? Is there not evidence? That obviously would be decided upon in a court of law if ever it came to that. Now, one thing that I've got written down here is I want to discuss Andrew's alibi. Now, he said that he was at Pizza Express with Princess Beatrice, when it was alleged by Virginia that she was having relations with Andrew at Ghislaine's London townhouse. I want to go further than that. I've said it before, but the police protection, the official police protection, always record where they have been that day with their charge. Andrew's no different. Andrew has now and back then round the clock police protection security. So there will have been records filed as to his whereabouts on those days. So Andrew technically would have a record of where he was on those days. Virginia herself said that he was driven to Ghislaine's London apartment, London townhouse rather, by his police protection officers. So we know that they were present at the time that Virginia is alleging that relations took place. So there would technically be a record of this. So I'm kind of thinking that now that Andrew has broken silence, he's done his interview, I'm kind of thinking that even though there hasn't been a legal case technically launched against him requiring him to give information, I kind of think, seeing as he has said that he's got an alibi, I think it would be advisable, I think, to produce that information voluntarily rather than him being in a formal situation where he would be required to produce that information, seeing as he's gone this far. Because if he has got official police information of his whereabouts that corroborate his story, that would help him and his case from his point of view. So I'm kind of thinking that now he's gone this far, if he does have this information, then perhaps he should produce it voluntarily, which would strengthen his case from his point of view. So basically, if you've got the information, perhaps you should prove it. I also think that from the girls' legal team side, again, if they have anything to bring against Andrew, I think now would be a good time to do that, because it's kind of damaging for all parties for this to be continuing and going on without there being any kind of, actual something, wheels in motion. I'm going to call it wheels in motion, without there being any actual wheels in motion. We do know that subpoenas, I think they're known as, have been made against Andrew, so that if he went to the USA, he would be required to answer questions. Obviously, whilst this is going on, Andrew more than likely will not step foot in the USA. So he will avoid this. Whether or not he can, he should voluntarily give evidence via video link, answering questions. That would be up to his legal team. He did say in his interview that he would be open to helping any investigations if his legal team advised him to do so. So that would obviously need to play out as well. The interview also mentioned inconsistencies in Virginia's accounts, which she countered with, okay, I may have dates wrong, I may have times wrong, I may have locations mixed up, but that's because I was being abused. That's because everything that was going on. But the one that was a little bit, I don't know, whether it painted her accounts in a reliable light or not. There was one naming of a lawyer, and it was a lawyer that was connected with Epstein, and there was an email from a press, from someone in the press advising Virginia to mention the name of this lawyer, which I'm not going to mention his name, but he categorically denies any impropriety. He did say he did receive a massage, but he said he didn't have any relations with any of the girls. He said he kept his underwear on and all the rest of it, and it was one occasion. So it was just kind of this email saying, make sure you mention it because it might help to strengthen your case, or it was words to that account. So I just thought I would put that in there as well, because the interview did actually question Virginia about that, and she did give an answer. The legal position. So again, I am not a lawyer. I do not know the legal position on it. Obviously, there are complications with Andrew being British. Now, I will say, I do not think that being a prince, that being a royal highness, that being the son of a monarch should in any way impede the law. I don't think anybody should be above the law, and if there is a case to answer, I think that case should be put, and I think that Andrew should fully comply with that within the realms of legality, which he did say he would do upon legal advice. It's going to be, I think it's all going to hinge in terms of Andrew, not Ghislaine, in terms of Andrew, on whether or not the legal team in America representing the girls can prove that he was aware of the trafficking. I think it all hinges upon the element of the trafficking. Was he aware of it? How do you prove that? How do you prove that someone was aware of the trafficking? That is very difficult to prove unless you have categoric evidence of it. Now, we don't know what evidence they have. But again, if they do have evidence, that should be produced and charges should be made. But I do think it's going to be hard to prove that he was aware of the trafficking. Whether he did or not, I think it's going to be difficult from a legal point of view to prove. Again, I mentioned it earlier, I do think any information that Andrew has may help to strengthen the case against Ghislaine Maxwell. And I do think that is the main person that the girls' legal teams are actually going after. And I'm now going to speak about Andrew's future. Where does this leave Andrew, depending on which way it goes? I definitely think that his career, his royal career, is most definitely 100% on the line. Will he be a working royal in the future? I think that is in serious jeopardy. I think there has been a lot of harm done to him personally. I don't think it's going to affect the Queen. I don't think it's going to affect the other royals. Obviously, it brings them in, but I don't think it's going to affect the wider royal family. I do, however, think that it potentially could affect him fatally in terms of his royal career. At the moment, we know that he has pulled away from all royal duties, or rather, he's been pulled away from all duties. He has given up his association with any of his former charities and patronages. Will he get them back? If this plays out in his favour, I can see a slow reintroduction into royal life and royal work. If it stays as it is, doesn't get sorted out, or it goes not in his favour, I can see his royal career being finished permanently. So his future at the moment is uncertain. We have a position currently, which is that he's not taking part in royal life. He still has his HRH and prince status, title, style, and of course his dukedom. There has been talk about should he have that removed. At the moment, I don't think that is likely. I think he will stay prince. I think he will stay HRH. I think he will remain a duke. However, the Queen does have the power to revoke that, to remove it, or the monarch at the time has the ability to do that. And of course, the monarch will be having advice, not only from family, I'm talking Prince Charles, and maybe William, but also she will be having advice from her Prime Minister. Whichever, well, obviously it's Boris at the moment, but post-election it could be a different Prime Minister. So there will be a lot to speak about, and we do not know which way that is going to go. So that was all of my notes, and I've kind of gone through it fairly quickly, 21 minutes, but I now want to kind of go and just kind of flick through and see what people have been saying. Let's have a little look. Mrs. Pilling says it makes more sense now as to why Andrew gave the interview, as looks like the deal was given to waive the two responses. Yeah, to weave the two responses together. Yes, because obviously Virginia filmed a little bit after that, responding to his interview. Let's just have a little look. Kate says, I don't think those in the UK understand the system Epstein and Maxwell set up. The interview did explain it a lot better. I will say that having watched the interview, I understood what went on a lot better. So yes, I think the interview did do a really good job of explaining how the system was working. Elise says, I thought it was Epstein who told Prince Andrew we're 18. We don't know that. I am not commenting on that because that was not touched on in the interview. That is legal territory. I mean, again, people are saying whether or not they believe Virginia. We are all going to have our personal opinions. I think most people will probably, having watched that interview, will be thinking along the same lines. I am going to say that. But, you know, everyone's going to have their own opinions, and everyone is more than entitled to voice them. Keontae Kent says, Andrew should have followed his grandmother's wisdom. Never complain, never explain. His interview was a disaster. I think looking back, he will probably regret that interview until the day that he dies. I'm just kind of going through it. Kate says, what if we don't care about that one night and just think it's the right thing for him to tell authorities everything he knows? Again, that would be on a voluntary basis. So Andrew would have to choose whether or not it's more beneficial for him to volunteer any information he has, or whether to wait until it is formally requested. I'm going to kind of scoot down a bit more. Mr. Nick says, as videos exist, many will fall. Again, any evidence should be put to, in this case, the FBI, or if people have videos or evidence from the UK side, it should be put put to the British police. Chianti Kent says the women in this case are being represented by a fierce mother-daughter team that champion women's crimes. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure their legal team is on point. Right, and I'm going to leave that here because I kind of want this to be a very concise video about one particular topic, and I don't really want it to be too opinion heavy. So I'm going to leave it here, and all I'm going to say is the usual. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. I know you're not liking the content of the video, but if you're liking the fact that I've made a video, please still give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media, and also do hit that bell so that you know whenever I make or post or do a pop-up video of this nature. Also, please do make sure you are subscribed to the channel. So from me, until next time, mwah to you all, and goodbye.